Thank you very much for inviting me in IMCAS, Brazil. I would like to be with you today. I'm very sorry I was unable to be there, so I can deliver this presentation virtually. We're going to be talking about the vicious circle of hormonal imbalance, depression, cravings, and adiposity. We lose some weight, we put it back on because of hormonal imbalance, depression, and cravings. I have no conflicts of interest, and this review is based on over 430 articles and my books that have been translated in 12 languages. Now, why can we not lose weight? Why can we not lose the belly? Fat is a systemic issue. So you can work out all day and still not lose weight. Why? Because the system is not working. The problem with the belly is that it's full of visceral fat, and the visceral fat can cause heart disease, stroke, artery disease, some cancers. Basically, visceral fat is the shape of death. And you may think that you don't have enough visceral fat because you're slender, you're not overweight. Wrong. You can have very dangerous visceral fat even though you are not fat. What's the problem with visceral fat? It's a toxic waste dump. It's like a garbage bin. So what happens with toxicity is very heavily involved in aging and disease. And 2023 systematic review found that non-alcoholic fatty liver disease lowers life expectancy. And it's a risk of about 39% of people who have the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease to develop cirrhosis. It's quite dangerous. So this is death by fatty liver. And I've done several articles related to that issue. Now, what is the problem? Unbalanced hormones. It means broken links between cellular communications and overall systemic dysfunction. What happens then? Inflammation, toxicity, fatigue, hunger, because your hormones are imbalanced, leptin and ghrelin are imbalanced, obesity, fatty liver, aging, and disease. And when your body is balanced hormonally and is synchronized, then you have a systemic harmony. So if you can see people that are overweight and they sort of walk in an awkward fashion, whereas people that have fitness is like one thing. They have a different presence. So we can go from broken, that involves increase of aging, to freedom and anti-aging. Why hormones are important? Because look at this guy. He can work out all day, but still, if he has a hormonal deficiency of IGF-1, he will remain the same. And why is it that we cannot take an injection and inject hormones? Why? Because we don't know how much our particular system requires and whether our system will not actually reject the hormones that we have injected. And then nothing will happen. And why quantity is important and rejection is very important, because you can have too little insulin and gain weight, and you can have too much insulin and also gain weight. And it's the same thing with leptin. You can have too little leptin and be starving, and you can have too much leptin and be equally hungry. So it has to be within a normal range or it's not gonna work. So, and people may come to us because they've seen different marketing, and that see by marketing, they think they're going to get something like this, and they end up getting this. So we have to be very careful that can come in, but they're not going to stay with us unless we give them the results. And we have to be aware of side effects. Like, for example, with cryolysis, there's the paradoxical adipose hypertrophy side effect that basically looks like that, and it's very, very unattractive. Now, cryolysis is still very popular. 19% are very satisfied, 32% are okay, satisfied, neutral, about the same amount, and there are a lot of unsatisfied people. The problem with all lasers and radio frequency or cryolysis that we use is that the lipolysis that these technologies produce cannot suppress hunger, so there is gain rebound. And this is some of the articles that I've written. They report about 99% of the studies report successful destruction of subcutaneous fat. However, they don't address visceral fat, and that is the dangerous fat. And why? Visceral fat holds inflammation, not just toxicity, but inflammation. So we have to be careful when we do this, use technologies like lasers and cryols. We always have to include the CRP to see if there is an increase in inflammatory kinases and other chemokines, interleukins that could increase inflammation in the system. And that's not a very good thing. There is a lot of research that has shown that radiofrequency can cause inflammation, and inflammation is going to increase aging and also disease. So inflammation is going to be involved in diabetes and insulin resistance, in cancer, in immune decline, in cognitive decline, and so on and so forth. And it also leads to impaired immune surveillance, which means we can get sick more easily. So because inflammation will increase the accumulation of senescent cells, and of course, then it will increase aging. The other problem with using these technologies is that we have to be careful. Can they actually target fat, but distinguish fat from muscle, or do they burn both fat and muscle? Because if that's the case, that's not a good thing. Now, how inflammation will basically increase emotional apathy. And because we are apathetic and we feel like blah, we just start eating for no reason. That have been developed, RET started in the 50s for observation, but now it's becoming more a treatment modality, and it's a resonance energy transfer that can make biological changes. And resonance energy transfer, it has to do with cellular communications via resonant communication. And when you hear about these technologies that they use lasers and they say it's resonance energy transfer, what are they transferring? Just energy is not enough. It has to be a signal, because it's the signal that will click the signals of the body to basically communicate and increase the process that we want to increase, basically the hormonal balance and the proteostasis. So we use an effortless exercise device from London University that uses the RET signaling RET technology. And what we found a decreased cholesterol. We found metabolism boost, FRT3 increase, hunger suppression because of the ghrelin and the leptin being balanced. Bilirubin had to do with waste products from breakdown from the red cells, so it has to do with liver health. Creatinine, again, liver health and kidneys health. Also a significant inflammation decrease. We also found testosterone increase that increases energy, cortisol decrease, visceral fat reduction, and we found BMI reduction and BMR increased by 91%. That is very important because that means that you lose more calories even if you're old, because usually young people lose more calories than the old. That's why we put on weight when we're older. So BMR is extremely important. Skeletal muscle mass and fitness was significantly increased, and also we had the diabetic improvement. Again, here, inflammation, 150 subjects decreased by 36.87%. Again, inflammation can be a necessary thing, so the percentage don't matter. It depends where the patient was before testing and before receiving a treatment. Again, bad cholesterol and HDL, good cholesterol, one decreased and one increased optimally as they should have been. Triglycerides significantly decreased, very important results, again, 150 subjects, and same thing with leptin, ghrelin, cortisol. Leptin was increased, ghrelin was decreased, but within the average range, in an optimal fashion. And that's what's necessary, because remember, you have too much leptin, you're still starving, even though leptin is supposed to suppress hunger to satiate appetite. And of course, cortisol was decreased, and again, it has to do. Now, low metabolism creates insecurity. You feel like you take up space. And it's very important when your metabolism is within the normal range and at the peak of your normal range, then mood swings go away, aches go away, even constipation goes away. And low testosterone will basically create fatigue. And here we have the results for testosterone. You see body mass has increased, body toning, muscle increase, and testosterone we also did a study with 1,290 subjects, and we found that there is you can see here the blood is separated. That means there is this is the blood of people that live 100 years, and this is the blood of people that die at 50. So it's a very significant result in terms of the blood flow. Now, high cortisol is going to create anxiety. Anxiety is going to create more food eating behaviors. And cortisol, of course, is going to affect all of our lives. It's going to affect our performance at work. So cortisol decreased by 21%. And again, it has to be within the normal range. The percentage does not matter. If you had 100% decrease of cortisol, you could have a disease. We have basically how this technology increased DHEA and held DHEA kind of at a level that was optimal through signaling resonance, because the DHEA declines at the age 25, both for men and women. And then you have the results on chronological age, 290 subjects, mean chronological age 49.7 years, and mean biological age 32.9 years. So basically, their cells were younger. They were actually younger, even though their age was older. And we looked at the endogenous stem cells, because when the fat is released into the bloodstream, it also releases stem cells, endogenous stem cells. The fat has a lot more stem cells than the bone marrow. And what we looked at is this is one of the articles that basically is related to this. Actually, I've done a few articles on this, and we looked at naturally released stem cells and how they facilitate the recovery from fatty liver. And just put here some of them, and a lot of other research has substantiated these results. And with this, I would like to thank you very much for inviting me. I'm sorry I'm not there in person. And if you have any questions, please get in touch with me at science@iellios.com. This is the WhatsApp. You can take a picture and basically can contact me anytime to answer any of your questions.